You felt it. This life doesn't fit. And deep down, you know it's not the only one. There's a version of you that's wealthier, freer, more alive, but you've been conditioned to reject it. Not because you're broken, but because your brain was wired to stay loyal to the familiar. The loop you're stuck in, it feels like you. Same thoughts, same choices, same outcome every single day. And here's the trap. Every time you focus on the past or fear the future, you're leaking energy out of the one place reality can actually change, the present moment. That's where quantum shifting begins, because reality isn't solid. It's a signal. Everything that exists in this universe is made of matter, a wave of probabilities waiting to collapse based on what you focus on, feel, and expect. You don't just experience reality, you generate it. And when you shift your frequency, you don't wait for change. You cause it. This isn't self-help. This is the system override they never wanted you to figure out. And once you learn it, reality changes. Instantly. So let me ask you something. Have you ever looked around at your life and thought, there's no way this is all there is? There's got to be more. I can feel it. Well, guess what? You're not crazy. You're not dreaming. You're right. Because the version of your life you want, the one you can see in your mind but haven't touched yet, it's not fiction. It already exists. And the wildest part? You can shift into it. I'm serious. And no, this isn't just think positive nonsense. We're talking about actual principles rooted in quantum physics, consciousness, neuroscience, stuff people like Tesla, Einstein, Neville Goddard, and even modern researchers have been talking about for decades. But here's the thing. Once you understand how this works, once you see how to use it, your reality doesn't just change, it bends. And no, it's not luck. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how it works. The science, the process, the proof, the steps. A real roadmap to shifting into the version of your life that's already out there, waiting on you. All right. Now, before we can talk about how to shift your reality, we need to start with what reality actually is. Because here's the truth most people miss. What you're experiencing right now, your job, your relationships, your income, even the emotions you think are just who you are, it's not reality in some fixed, absolute way. It's your version of reality. You think you're seeing reality. You're not. And it's being filtered, shaped, and even chosen by something most people never take time to understand. Consciousness. Because what we call reality, it's not solid, it's not linear, and it's definitely not limited to what your senses are showing you. That's Newtonian thinking, old code, cause and effect, push and pull. Matter is fixed. Everything must be earned through effort, force, or time. But the quantum reality, it doesn't work like that. At the quantum level, everything exists as waves of probability, potential outcomes waiting to be collapsed by observation. You don't wait for the effect, you cause it by aligning with it. The world isn't made of solid matter, it's made of energy, entangled, intelligent, and responsive. Matter is just energy slowed down and observed into form. You are not a fixed physical being. You're an energetic consciousness, a fragment of the infinite field, nothing and everything at once. Time? That's an illusion. From the quantum perspective, time isn't a straight line, it's non-linear, just a construct made possible by the body's limitations. But your consciousness exists beyond time, and that means your future isn't something you wait for, it's something you can tune into. Let's break this down. Imagine you're watching a movie through a specific pair of glasses, red-tinted lenses. Everything on the screen looks warm, kind of saturated. Now swap those glasses for a blue pair, and suddenly the entire vibe changes. Same movie, same scenes, completely different experience. That's exactly how your consciousness is coloring reality. You're not reacting to life. You're reacting to the lens you've been wearing, often without even knowing it. But here's where it gets really interesting. That lens isn't just filtering things. It might actually be influencing the movie itself. And that's not just spiritual woo, that's quantum physics. Let me introduce you to something called the double-slit experiment. It's one of the most famous experiments in all of science, and it shattered how we think the universe works. Here's the short version. Physicists fired tiny particles through two slits toward a wall to see how they behaved. When no one was watching, by just letting them do their thing, the electrons acted like waves. They passed through both slits at once, creating an interference pattern. But the moment someone observed them, literally looked at them, they changed behavior. They stopped acting like waves and started acting like particles, like they were suddenly aware of being watched and said, "Okay, fine, I'll pick a path." But why does that matter now? Because it means the act of observation changed the outcome. And it's proof for how reality behaved differently depending on whether a conscious observer was involved. Really let that sink in. Reality changed because it was observed. And Einstein hated this idea. He pushed back hard, saying, God does not play dice with the universe. But even he couldn't deny the results in the end. And more scientists like Bohr, Schrödinger, Heisenberg, they all came to the same conclusion. At the quantum level, consciousness matters. Now, some scientists will argue this only applies to subatomic particles and not to daily life. Fair point. But here's where things get fascinating. If our universe is built from particles that behave this way, and if the foundation of our reality is probabilistic, influenced by observation, then why wouldn't your thoughts, your attention, your expectations have some effect on what shows up in your life? Let's take it a step further. Your attention isn't passive, it's a quantum trigger. Every time you focus, you collapse a possibility into reality. That means your attention isn't just valuable, it's currency. It creates. That's why every platform, algorithm, and ad on Earth is fighting to steal it. But here's where it turns against you. Every time you spiral in fear, obsess over what's missing, or replay who you used to be, you're collapsing the same limited version of reality. Over and over. You're not stuck, you're selecting, and the worst part is, you don't even know you're doing it. But the ones who did know, they tried to tell us. And Nikola Tesla, one of the most brilliant minds in history, once said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." This wasn't a metaphor. He wasn't being poetic, he was being precise. He didn't just invent AC power and the radio. He believed your consciousness is a transmitter, and that your thoughts and emotions are frequencies that shape what shows up in the field around you. Now, fast forward to Carl Jung, not an inventor, but a deep mind explorer. He believed your unconscious mind isn't just personal. It's connected to something collective, something bigger. And from that, he gave us synchronicity. Those strange, impossible coincidences that feel too targeted to be random. You think of someone, they call, you shift your mindset, and the job offer shows up, not because you forced it, because you tuned into it. Is it random, or is something being aligned? Jung didn't think it was a chance, and if you've ever experienced one of those moments, neither do you. Now throw in modern neuroscience. Your brain doesn't just record reality. It predicts it. It filters out 95% of everything around you and feeds you what it expects to see. That's why two people walk into the same room and leave with two different worlds. That's why once you start focusing on something, it starts showing up everywhere. That's not magic, that's selective perception. Your brain literally constructs your version of reality in real time. So let's connect the dots. Quantum physics says observation changes outcomes. Psychology says perception shapes experience. Neuroscience says attention wires what we notice and respond to. And Tesla, Jung, Einstein, they weren't just speculating, they were pointing at a deeper structure of reality, one you interact with every time you think, feel, or expect. So here's the question. If your reality is built from what you observe, focus on, and believe, what happens? if you start shifting those things on purpose. Not once, not casually, but with intention, repetition, precision. That's where we're going next, because this isn't theory anymore. You can apply it. And when you do, you don't just understand reality differently, you live in a new one. And here's how this plays out in the real world. Remember when no one in history could run a mile in under 4 minutes? It was considered impossible, physiologically unreachable, a human limit. Until one man, Roger Bannister, did it in 1954. And then, dozens of people broke the same record within months. Nothing changed in their training. Their lungs didn't evolve overnight, but their reality did. Someone proved it was possible, and that single act collapsed a new timeline into collective belief. That's quantum. Because once the field receives new information, a new potential, it becomes available to everyone who aligns with it. It wasn't just a race. It was a demonstration of what happens when one person stops observing the old limit and chooses to observe a new one instead. So now let's get real clear on what we actually mean by quantum shifting. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of confusion around this term. Some people throw it around like it's time travel. Others think it's some kind of spiritual bypass, where you meditate once and wake up rich. So let's put all that to rest. Quantum shifting is not magic. It's not fantasy. And it's definitely not about escaping this world. What it is a way to understand how your internal state, your thoughts, emotions, identity, and attention can align you with a different version of reality that already exists in the field of possibilities. Let me explain. In quantum physics, there's this idea that at the smallest level, particles don't exist in one fixed place. They exist in a superposition, meaning they hold multiple potential states at the same time, until one of those states is observed and becomes real. Now take that concept and zoom it out to your everyday life. What if your current reality, your job, your health, your relationships, exists not in a fixed state, but in a field of possibilities? And what if the version you experience depends on what you focus on, how you feel, what you expect, and who you believe yourself to be? That's the essence of quantum shifting. It's the idea that by changing your internal state, you can begin to tune into a different external one, just like tuning a radio to a new station. The music was always there. You just weren't dialed into it. Let's use that radio metaphor for a second because it's powerful. Imagine every possible version of your life, every job you could have, every relationship, every mindset, every outcome already exists on a different frequency. You don't have to build that new life from scratch. You just have to match the frequency of the version you want. And how do you change frequencies? Not by effort or hustle alone. You shift frequencies by changing how you think, feel, act, and identify. You might be wondering, how is this different from just thinking positive? Good question. Quantum shifting is not just about thinking better thoughts. It's about becoming the version of yourself who already inhabits the life you want. Let's bring in Neville Goddard, one of the earliest teachers of this principle, long before it had a name. He said, "Change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live." What he meant is this: reality doesn't respond to what you wish for. It responds to who you are being. If you want a life of abundance, but you're still identifying as someone who is struggling, worrying, and doubting, you're tuned to the wrong frequency. You can affirm abundance all day long, but the signal you're sending is lack. Quantum shifting is the process of changing your internal signal so consistently that you start tuning into a different external reality. You start making decisions from that version. You respond to challenges the way they would. You speak, walk, act, not from where you are, but from where you want to be. And over time, what happens? Your world starts to reflect the shift. Opportunities show up. People respond differently. You start living the frequency you've been tuning into. That's quantum shifting. And no, it doesn't mean everything changes overnight. But the moment you shift internally, the trajectory of your life shifts immediately. And here's something even crazier. Many of the most iconic thinkers and creators were doing this before science had the language for it. Jim Carrey wrote himself a $10 million check before he was famous. Keanu Reeves spoke of seeing his success in his mind before anyone else did. Tesla visualized entire inventions in detail before ever building them. They weren't delusional. They were aligning with a timeline and acting from it before it materialized. So don't get stuck on whether this is quantum mechanics in the strict scientific sense. Think of it as a practical framework for choosing a new reality by aligning with it mentally, emotionally, and energetically. And the best part? It's not reserved for the elite or the enlightened. You can do this too. It's available at all times for anyone watching this right now. But now that you understand what quantum shifting is, I'm going to show you exactly how it works, step by step, and what science says about why it's effective. Okay, so at this point maybe you're thinking, all right, this sounds inspiring and all, but is there actually any science to back it up? Fair question. Let's dive into that. First, let's be clear. Quantum shifting, as we're describing it, is not a scientific term. You won't find a physics textbook with a chapter titled How to Shift Timelines. But you will find something even more powerful. Evidence that your thoughts, attention, and emotional state have measurable effects on your brain, your body, and potentially even the world around you. Let's talk about the quantum Zeno effect, an even more disturbing insight into how observation shapes reality. In short, if you observe something often enough, you can freeze it in place. Physicists found that by continuously measuring a quantum system, they could halt its natural evolution. Just by watching it, over and over, they stopped it from changing. Now think about what that means outside the lab. Every time you obsess over what's not working, every time you replay your trauma, doubt your future, or relive failure, you're freezing that version of reality in place. You're collapsing the same outcome. Repeatedly. Not because it's your destiny, but because it's what you're observing. This isn't theory. This is quantum law. And it means this. If your attention has the power to collapse a wave, it also has the power to collapse a new one. This means the act of observation changes the behavior of physical matter. That's not spiritual speculation. That's physics. And it raises a big question. If observation changes outcome at the smallest levels of reality, what happens when our consciousness is consistently observing a certain belief, expectation, or possibility? We don't have definitive answers, but we do have clues. Let's check neuroscience for a second. There's something called neuroplasticity, your brain's built-in ability to rewire itself based on what you focus on and repeat. Every time you vividly imagine a future event, your brain fires the same neurons as if it's happening right now. Your body responds emotionally. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between memory, imagination, or reality. And that's exactly why meditation isn't just about calm. It's a tool to recode your entire identity. But here's the key. You have to charge it with emotion. So when you sit down to meditate, don't just go blank. Tap into something real. Picture the moment you held your child for the first time. The feeling of hugging your dog after a long day. The rush of hitting your first big win. The kind that made your whole body buzz. Reread an old letter from someone who believed in you. Scroll through photos that make your chest light up. Because those aren't just memories, they're emotional blueprints. And when you relive them with full intensity, you generate a chemical and energetic state that rewires your brain and raises your frequency. You're not just feeling better, you're shifting, you're aligning, you're programming your body to believe the future you want is already here. That's not a mindset hack, that's quantum neurobiology. And don't watch the news. It keeps you trapped in a low vibrational state, ruining everything else. So think about that. If you're imagining failure, you're training your nervous system to expect it. But if you're imagining success with clarity, confidence, and emotion, you're literally installing that reality into your biology. Now let's talk about epigenetics. Dr. Bruce Lipton, a cell biologist, published research showing that gene expression is not fixed. It responds to the environment. And more importantly, that environment includes your internal state, your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. He put it this way: the moment you change your perception is the moment you rewrite the chemistry of your body. In other words, belief isn't just mental, it's biochemical. You're not stuck with the programming you were born with. You can literally change the way your cells behave by changing the way you think. Now let's talk about consciousness itself. Let me take you back to the 70s, when Princeton University, one of the most respected institutions in the world, launched something called the PEAR Lab. Now get this, they weren't studying physics or engineering like you'd expect. They were studying intention, your mind, and how it might actually influence machines. So they used random number generators. But here's the crazy part. After millions of trials, they found that human intention, just focused thought, actually skewed the results. Not once, but repeatedly. And this wasn't some fringe experiment tucked away in the basement. It was peer-reviewed, rigorously tested, and decades ahead of its time. Now, fast forward to Dean Radin, lead scientist at the Institute of Noetic Sciences. His research shows that people who are deeply focused, meditating, emotionally locked in, can actually affect physical systems from a distance. Yeah, I know, it sounds wild. Is it controversial? Sure. But guess what? The data keeps showing up. Patterns that traditional science just can't explain. So here's the big takeaway. Your thoughts aren't just noise in your head. They're energy, and they are measurable. They can skew results in real life. This is just another proof that you can literally change your life, just by rewiring your thoughts. And that energy flows through your body, your biology, your decisions, and maybe even into the world around you. Still think this is just mindset fluff? Let's bring more proof using psychology. Let's talk about something that's not theory. It's one of the most scientifically documented phenomena in modern medicine: the placebo effect. People take a sugar pill or get a fake surgery, and they start getting better. Not because the treatment worked, because they believed it would. Their belief triggered a physical response in the body. Immune function changes, hormones shift, pain decreases. In some cases, the results are just as strong as the actual medication. But here's the other side nobody talks about: the nocebo effect. That's when belief works against you. Let me tell you a real story. A man was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Doctors gave him just a few months to live. He believed it completely. He made peace with it. And right on schedule, he passed away. But here's the twist. At his autopsy, they discovered the doctors had been wrong. He barely had any cancer. Nothing that should have killed him. He didn't die from disease. He died from belief. That's how powerful your mind is. Your brain isn't just interpreting reality, it's helping create it. Every thought, every expectation sends a signal to your body and potentially into the field around you. So when we talk about quantum shifting, we're not talking about positivity. We're talking about using belief as a biological and energetic weapon to heal, to align, and to collapse a new reality into place. And that's what makes this all so compelling. You don't need to believe in quantum realms or parallel timelines to grasp this. What you focus on becomes real. What you expect tends to show up. What you emotionally align with, you attract or notice more of. That's not magic. That's perception. That's attention. That's biology. Now, to be intellectually honest, none of this proves you're literally jumping timelines in the sci-fi sense. Science doesn't confirm that yet. but it does show that your inner world has a measurable influence on your outer experience. And if that's the case, then the line between shifting reality and shifting perception might be a lot blurrier than we think. Here's how Albert Einstein put it. Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. And when Neville Goddard said, "Feeling is the secret," he wasn't being poetic. He was describing something that science is just beginning to catch up to. That emotionally charged thought creates internal and external change. So if your beliefs influence your biology, your focus reshapes your brain, your intention affects your perception, and your emotion alters your behavior, then maybe, just maybe, what we call quantum shifting is a way of consciously orchestrating all of that. Not through wishful thinking, but through deliberate, repeatable, scientifically informed action. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you next, because theory is useless without practice. So let's move into the step-by-step breakdown of how you can start shifting your reality, starting today. So how do you actually do it? How do you shift into a different version of your life, not in theory but in practice? What I'm going to give you here is a 7-step framework. This isn't mystical or vague. It's not just think good thoughts or repeat mantras and hope for the best. It's about shifting how you see, how you feel, and how you act until your reality responds. Let's break it down. Step 1. Awareness of current reality. Before you can shift, you need to know what you're shifting from. Most people try to manifest or quantum jump without first identifying what their current mental and emotional state even is. But awareness is the starting point of all change. Ask yourself, what is the current reality I've been tuned into? What story have I been living on autopilot? What thoughts and emotions do I habitually entertain? You need to create what psychologists call meta-awareness. Awareness of your thoughts as thoughts, not as facts. Because if you're unconsciously tuned into a story of limitation, fear, or frustration, you'll keep reinforcing that frequency, no matter how much you visualize. Think of it like GPS. You can't get directions to your dream life unless you first mark your "you are here" point. Tool, journaling. Write out your current identity, your assumptions about money, relationships, success, your self-worth. This is your energetic baseline. Key step. Observe your thoughts and emotions as an objective witness. Become conscious of the unconscious. Step 2. Define the desired reality with precision. Vagueness kills alignment. You can't shift into a better life. The quantum field doesn't respond to blurry. You need clarity, specificity, vivid detail. What exactly does your desired life look like? What do you do every day? How do you feel? What kind of people are around you? What does success smell like, taste like, sound like? This isn't wishful thinking. It's neuro-linguistic programming. The more vividly you define your target, the easier it is for your mind to simulate and your nervous system to embody it. Tool. Try scripting. Write a journal entry as if you're already living that life. Use present tense. Add emotion and sensory detail. Example. I wake up in a beautiful home that feels peaceful and bright. My work excites me, and my income flows easily from what I love doing. I feel calm, sharp, and powerful. My days feel aligned, not rushed. Step 3. Emotional alignment. Match the frequency. This is the most crucial step. Neville Goddard said, "Feeling is the secret," and he was right. You don't shift reality with thoughts alone, you shift it with emotionally charged energy. Why? Because emotion is what glues an idea into your subconscious and influences your actions, your tone of voice, your posture, and your decisions. From a neurological standpoint, when you feel something strongly, your brain releases neurotransmitters that reinforce the experience. You're literally rewiring your identity. So here's the test. Can you feel gratitude for the thing before it shows up? Can you feel confidence, ease, fulfillment, not just think about them? Tool. Try the heart coherence technique from the HeartMath Institute. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly into your heart space. Recall a moment of deep gratitude or peace. Let the emotion grow, then visualize your desired reality from that elevated state. This shifts your frequency. You start to radiate a different energy, and people, opportunities, and ideas respond to it. Step 4. Identity shift. Act from the future self. This is where most people fall off. They feel good in meditation, but then go back to acting like the same person as before. Same habits, same reactions, same fears. To shift, you have to embody the identity of the person who already lives in that version of your life. Ask yourself, what decisions would that version of me make today? How would they speak to people? What would they say yes or no to? How would they treat their body, their time, their money? This is where Jim Carrey's famous story comes in. He didn't just wish for success, he wrote himself a $10 million check and lived as if it were already happening. That belief changed how he auditioned, how he carried himself, how he acted on stage. That's identity-based action. 2. Try the act as if technique. Choose one behavior today that reflects your future identity. Want to be a confident speaker? Record a 2-minute video and post it, even if it terrifies you. Want to be a wealthy creator? Start managing your money like you already respect it. Identity isn't found, it's forged. Step 5. Sustain focus. Collapse the wave. In quantum physics, there's something called the quantum Zeno effect. The more frequently something is observed, the more its state becomes locked in. Translation: repetition creates reality. If you constantly shift focus, doubt yourself, or contradict your new story with your old habits, you're undoing the signal you're sending out. You need to stabilize the frequency. This means daily reinforcement, visual reminders, focused intention. Tool: vision board, daily affirmations, emotionally felt, not robotic, habit tracking. Create an environment that reflects the new timeline, not the old one. Your goal is to mentally rehearse how the new version of you thinks, speaks, feels, and acts. Step 6. Detach from outcome. Let the field organize. This one feels counterintuitive. We're told to want it badly. But here's the paradox. The more you cling, the more you signal lack. In quantum shifting, detachment isn't apathy. It's trust. You've sent the signal. You're aligned. Now, let the field bring it to you in whatever form is best. Surrender and stay in the state of receiving, not chasing. Have trust that if you've shifted the state, reality must reflect that change eventually. Think about this. If you order something online, you don't check the mailbox every 5 minutes in panic. You know it's coming, same with your shift. Tool: after visualizing, say, this or something better, I don't need to chase it. It's already finding me. Then return to your day with presence and purpose. Step 7. Observe and reinforce new reality. Here's where you close the loop. After you shift, your environment might not instantly look different, but subtle things will begin to change. Watch for different reactions from people, random opportunities, internal calm, synchronicities, what Carl Jung called meaningful coincidences. These are signs the external world is reconfiguring. When you notice them, reinforce them, journal about them, say thank you. Let your mind lock in the feedback loop. The universe doesn't speak English, it speaks frequency. When you respond with gratitude, you amplify the signal. Step 8. Watch for feedback. As you shift energetically, the universal intelligence will send you signs. Some of you have already noticed things like random encounters, unplanned opportunities, emotional breakthroughs, synchronicity, serendipity, etc. Final words on this process. So that's the roadmap. And no, it's not a one-time trick. Quantum shifting is a practice, not a wish list. It requires self-awareness, clarity, emotional regulation, repetition, trust. But once you start aligning consistently with your desired reality, you'll start noticing something amazing. Reality responds. Not instantly, not always the way you expect, but undeniably. Because once you shift your frequency, you shift what you attract, what you notice, and what you become available for. All right, but before we go any further, we need to have a real talk. Because at this point, a lot of people start misinterpreting everything we've talked about. They get excited, which is great. But then they fall into one of the biggest traps that completely derails the process of quantum shifting. They turn it into wishful thinking. So let's clean this up right now. Let's talk about what quantum shifting is not. Myth number 1, if I think about it, it will just happen. This is one of the most common and damaging misconceptions. You hear people say things like, I visualized money and it didn't show up. I imagined my dream partner, but I'm still alone. Let's get something straight. Visualization is not a vending machine. Quantum shifting is not about passively imagining a new life until it magically appears. It's about changing the frequency of who you are being, which means your thoughts, emotions, habits, and decisions shift. You don't sit on the couch and daydream your way into a new reality. You become the version of you who naturally makes choices aligned with that life. Faith without works is dead. That principle applies here too. Thinking is the seed. Acting from that thought is the water and sunlight. Myth number 2. It's instant. If it's not working right away, it's not real. This myth destroys more transformations than almost anything else. We live in a dopamine-driven microwave culture. Everyone wants the hack, the shortcut, the instant manifestation. But let's be real. Change takes time. Even in quantum systems, coherence builds gradually. Even in your brain, neuroplastic changes require repetition. You are reprogramming an identity. That doesn't happen overnight. And just because you don't see external proof right away doesn't mean nothing's happening. Think of it like planting bamboo. For years, nothing appears above the ground, but underground, a massive root system is building. And then, suddenly it grows 90 feet in a few weeks. Don't dig up the seed just because you don't see leaves yet. Myth number 3. It replaces hard work. Let me say this clearly. Quantum shifting does not replace strategy, effort, or skill. It amplifies them. Here's the distinction. Hard work from a misaligned identity is struggle. Hard work from aligned identity is flow. When you shift your identity first, you no longer waste energy second-guessing yourself. You no longer procrastinate, self-sabotage, or settle. You work smarter, not because you found a hack, but because you're now behaving as the version of you that already expects results. You still have to show up. You still have to build. You still have to deal with resistance and friction. But now it's from a place of inner congruence, not desperation or hustle. Myth number 4. If it doesn't happen, I must be doing it wrong. Here's the truth nobody likes to admit. Sometimes it takes longer than you want. Sometimes the shift you're trying to create is being blocked by unconscious beliefs, emotional wounds, or a refusal to let go of old identities. That doesn't mean the method doesn't work. It means you have to go deeper. If something isn't showing up, ask, am I truly embodying this identity or just hoping for a result? Do I have internal resistance, doubt, fear, guilt, or shame around this desire? Am I more focused on getting than becoming? Shifting is not about perfection, it's about persistence. Even Einstein, who wrestled with the weirdness of quantum mechanics, understood that reality isn't linear. He said, "It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer." Stay with your shift. Myth number 5. Quantum shifting is a spiritual loophole to bypass life. Let's make one thing clear. Quantum shifting is not about escaping life. It's about engaging with it differently. This is not about detaching from reality or avoiding pain. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about stepping into your creative role within reality. It's about realizing, if I created this experience through unconscious focus, then I can shift the experience through conscious alignment. That's not bypassing, that's ownership. So look, this process isn't magic, it's not delusion. It's not about sitting on a mountain chanting mantras until your problems vanish. It's about becoming so aligned with your future identity that reality doesn't have a choice but to catch up. But you've got to do your part. You have to show up, observe your patterns, break the old loops, and embody the new you before the world reflects it back. This isn't fantasy, it's feedback. And if you're willing to stay with the shift, to test it instead of doubt it, what happens next will feel a whole lot like magic. But it won't be luck, it'll be you. Finally tuned to the reality that's been waiting for you all along. Now, let's get into some real-world examples of people who've done exactly that, so you can see what this looks like in action. All right. So by now, we've covered what quantum shifting is, how it works, and what it definitely isn't. But let's bring it to life with something real. Because the truth is, people have been using the core principles of quantum shifting long before we ever gave it a name. They weren't calling it quantum alignment or frequency matching. They were just doing it. They shifted into new versions of themselves and watched the world reshape around them. Let's start with one of the clearest modern examples, Jim Carrey's $10 million check. Before he was a superstar, Jim Carrey was broke, struggling, and sleeping in his car. But one night, he did something different. He wrote himself a check for $10 million, dated 5 years in the future, with the note, "For acting services rendered." Every day he visualized receiving that money. He didn't just wish for it, he felt it. He saw himself being paid that exact amount. 5 years later, almost to the date, he was paid $10 million for Dumb and Dumber. Now skeptics love to say, well, he's talented. He was going to make it anyway. Maybe. But ask yourself this. Would he have gotten there without shifting his identity first? Would he have acted the same way, taken the same risks, carried the same energy, if he still saw himself as the broke guy in the car? Probably not. This wasn't a trick. It was alignment. Arnold Schwarzenegger, visualization plus identity shift. Before he became the biggest action star in the world, Arnold Schwarzenegger was already using these principles. When asked how he became a champion bodybuilder, millionaire real estate investor, and Hollywood actor, he said, "I saw it. I felt it. I lived it. Long before I had it." He visualized every lift, every muscle, every scene in the movie. He walked, talked, and acted like someone who was already world-class. He wasn't waiting for the world to give him permission. He assumed the identity of the person who had already arrived. And reality responded. This isn't just about celebrities. You don't need a record deal or a movie contract to experience this. Think about your own life. Ever notice how, when you're in a bad mood, everything seems to go wrong? Or when you're confident, even if you're winging it, things somehow work out? That's not random, that's frequency alignment. I've seen people shift from being stuck in jobs they hate to finding work they love, after shifting their sense of worth. Chronic health issues improving, after releasing emotional resistance and embodying wellness. Feeling invisible in dating to attracting new partners, after shifting how they see themselves. It's not magic. It's about becoming the version of yourself who naturally lives the life you want. And when that shift becomes real internally, when it moves from idea to embodiment, your external world starts playing catch-up. Every example you just heard has one thing in common. They shifted before the world gave them permission. They didn't wait for evidence. They created the evidence by changing first. And you can do the same. You don't need proof. You need presence. You need consistency. You need commitment to your future self. Because the people who seem lucky aren't always lucky. More often, they're the ones who decided, I'm going to show up as if it's already true, until it is. And when you do that, you don't force the shift, you become it. Now that you've seen how real people have used these principles, whether they called it quantum shifting or not, it's time to get tactical. Because none of this matters if you don't apply it. You can understand the science, repeat the quotes, get inspired by the stories. But if it never makes it into your daily rhythm, your reality won't budge. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a toolkit, specific methods you can start using right now to reinforce the shift you're aiming for. These are rooted in psychology, neuroscience, metaphysics, and even ancient spiritual practice. Some of them take 5 minutes. Some you'll build into habits over time. But all of them are meant to do one thing: align your inner world with the reality you want to experience. Let's get into it. This one's simple, but powerful. 1. Scripting is the act of writing out your desired life as if it's already happening. You're not begging. You're not future tripping. You're documenting reality as the version of you who already has it. Why it works? It activates your reticular activating system, filtering your attention toward aligned thoughts and actions. It reinforces identity through repetition. It creates an emotional blueprint your body can respond to. How to do it? Every morning or night, write 1 to 2 paragraphs about your life from the point of view of your shifted self. Use present tense. Include sensory detail. Focus on who you are being, not just what you have. Example: I feel so confident walking into meetings now. I speak clearly, people listen, and I never feel the need to prove anything. My income reflects the value I bring. Work feels easy and aligned. Do this daily for 7 days, and watch how your emotional state starts to shift, before anything external even changes. 2. SATS, state akin to sleep. This one comes straight from Neville Goddard. SATS is a technique for planting beliefs into the subconscious by entering a relaxed, drowsy state, right before sleep or after waking. Why it works? The subconscious mind is most receptive when the critical thinking filter is turned down. You bypass resistance and install new mental imagery at a deeper level. How to do it? Lie down and relax your body. Visualize a short, repeatable scene that implies your wish is already fulfilled. Feel the emotions. Make it vivid. Replay the same scene 3 to 5 times until you drift off or feel it lock in. Example: if your desired reality is financial abundance, visualize opening an email showing a payment confirmation, or seeing your bank balance and feeling calm, confident, and grateful. 3. 2-cup method. Symbolic energy shifting. This one's more esoteric, but a lot of people swear by it because of how it ritualizes the shift. The 2-cup method is a symbolic way of aligning with a new timeline using intention, water, and energy. Why it works? It engages kinesthetic learning through action. It taps into the placebo effect and subconscious association. It becomes a ritual of identity transformation. How to do it? Label cup A with your current reality. Name it stuck in scarcity. Label cup B with your desired reality. Name it financial freedom plus ease. Pour water into cup A while focusing on what you're releasing. Then pour that water into cup B while focusing on what you're stepping into. Drink the water from cup B slowly and mindfully. It's not about the water. It's about the signal you're sending your subconscious that you've shifted. 4. Visualization. Train the brain before reality catches up. Nikola Tesla used visualization before building any physical prototype. He would see every detail in his mind, test it mentally, then execute. That's not imagination. That's engineering. And your life works the same way. Why it works? Visualization activates the same neural pathways as real experience. Your brain starts forming memories of a future event, which changes your emotional and behavioral patterns. How to do it? Set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes. Visualize yourself already living your desired reality. See it clearly. Feel it emotionally. Imagine the challenges you've overcome. Don't just see the outcome, rehearse the identity. This is more than a feel-good moment. You're literally building mental infrastructure for the life you're calling in. 5. Emotional recalibration. Emotion is the frequency. Thought is the blueprint. If you think wealth but feel anxious, you're tuned to scarcity. If you think love but feel unworthy, you're tuned to rejection. So the goal is to recalibrate your emotional state to match the frequency of the life you want. How? Daily gratitude plus coherence exercises. Why it works? Gratitude triggers dopamine and oxytocin, your brain's receiving chemicals. It creates a state of physiological coherence. How to do it? Place your hand over your heart. Breathe deeply and slowly. Recall something you're deeply grateful for, past, present, or imagined. Let the feeling grow for 60 seconds. Then immediately bring your desired reality to mind. You've just anchored that image to a powerful emotional frequency. 6. Identity anchoring. Daily I am reminders. Everything we've talked about ultimately comes down to identity. If your internal self-concept doesn't match your desired reality, it will repel it. So create identity anchors, reminders that reinforce the version of you you're becoming. How to do it? Write 3 to 5 I am statements based on your shifted identity. Say them every morning, but not like affirmations you don't believe. Say them from emotion, from choice, from embodiment. Examples. I am a calm, clear, and confident leader. I am aligned with wealth and always supported. I am a creator of powerful results. The words matter less than the state they generate. You don't have to do all of these. Start with one, layer in another next week. The goal isn't to perform rituals. The goal is to create consistency of signal. Because once your identity, emotions, actions, and attention are all tuned to the same outcome, you stop chasing reality, and reality starts responding. So now you've got the tools. You've started practicing. You've been aligning with a new identity, using emotion, scripting, visualizing, acting as if. But here's a question I get all the time. How do I know it's working? Because let's be honest, if you're looking around and your external life still looks the same, it's easy to feel discouraged. It's easy to think, maybe I'm just imagining this. But that's exactly why this next part matters. Because once you start to shift, the first signs aren't always massive breakthroughs. In fact, they're usually subtle, but powerful. You just need to know what to look for. 1. Emotional signals shift before physical ones. One of the first signs that you're shifting is that you start to feel different, even before anything changes outside. You respond to stress more calmly. You don't spiral like you used to. You feel flashes of peace, clarity, or confidence without any external reason. That's not small. That's your nervous system updating. It means your subconscious is starting to believe the new identity. So don't dismiss it just because it doesn't come with fireworks. That internal calm, that's the signal stabilizing. 2. Resistance and contrast often show up. Here's something most people don't expect. Right after a shift, life might test it. You'll get triggered by old patterns. People from the past may reappear. Doubt may creep in. That doesn't mean you've failed. It means your old identity is being exposed. This is actually a sign of integration. Think of it like a software update. The system needs to reboot. So when resistance shows up, respond from your new identity, not the old one. That's how you lock it in. 3. Synchronicities and subtle confirmations. This is where things get fun. When you're truly aligned, you'll start to notice little winks from reality, repeating numbers. The exact book or video you needed shows up. A person mentions something you were just thinking about. You get an offer, opportunity, or idea seemingly out of nowhere. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, meaningful coincidence. It means you're becoming more sensitive to patterns, more open to intuitive nudges, and more tuned into the version of life you've been imagining. When this happens, acknowledge it, journal it, celebrate it. You'll feel the shift before you see the results. Here's the truth. The external shift often lags behind the internal one. And that's okay. Just like in a gym, you don't see muscle after one workout. But if your form is right, your plan is clear, and you're consistent, it's inevitable. So if you're not seeing instant results, ask, am I more emotionally stable than before? Am I showing up as my future self in small ways? Am I seeing signs, synchronicities, or changes in how people respond to me? If the answer is yes, even in small ways, you're shifting. Don't confuse subtle with insignificant. The first phase of quantum shifting often feels like a whisper, not a roar. But it's happening. Your brain is rewiring, your frequency is stabilizing, your habits are changing, and slowly, your external world begins to reconfigure to match the new version of you. To shift your reality, you can't just want the outcome, you have to embody it. You must become the version of yourself who already has it. That's how you lock onto it in the quantum field. Not by hoping, by aligning, mentally, emotionally, energetically, with the frequency of that future. Because in the quantum realm, all outcomes exist. The one you choose to live isn't based on effort, it's based on identity match. You're not pulling something in from outside you. You're tuning into what's already there and collapsing it into form. If this resonated with you, don't just let it fade. Lock it in. Drop a comment below with this phrase, "Quantum shift happens fast." It's our signal that you're in, that you're serious about aligning with your next level. And while you're at it, share a moment where you felt this shift in your own life. Maybe you didn't have a name for it before, but now you do. And hey, if you want more like this, real talk, deep tools, and grounded guidance, join the free newsletter. I send out insights I don't share anywhere else. You'll find the link in the description below. And if you're ready to go deeper, check out the next video right here on the channel. We're building a whole system of content that helps you think sharper, feel clearer, and live intentionally. Subscribe if you haven't already, because the next shift starts now. If you have watched the whole video, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and hopefully till the next one. And let me know in the comments what topics you want me to make a video on. Cheers.